since we both know what this is going to be,
Yes.
you can sing the theme song like we used to.
Yes. Outsiders. Meet the outsiders. They're a modern 80s pack of guys from the town of... He's about to get
Tulsa.
arrested.
I know that
is
one.
it Tulsa? Okay.
Yeah.
They're not sexy vampires, though.
Welcome to Your Inner Child is an Idiot, the podcast where we look back on things from our childhood and see if they were any good to begin with. My name is DJ.
And I am Damon. Hello, DJ.
Hi.
This is the
Hello.
first episode we have recorded tonight, so there's a reason for me to say hello.
You know what's great is seamless. The way that we wear the same clothes for the episode.
I want it to feel like turning on your favorite cartoon as a kid. Like Fred is always wearing, just to keep the Flintstones thing going, Fred is always wearing the same orange tunic or whatever, pelt, and that way you don't have to keep reanimating him every day, where he's wearing his red pelt or whatever.
It's too hard. My hand gets tired.
Jesus, what the hell is wrong with me? The point is that why do I feel the need to sabotage this podcast? There's no reason to bring up that we recorded previous episodes, but I have this urge to just destroy and tear it down.
You're trying to do is be self-aware so that you get ahead of any possible mean comments or any criticism that someone could have. But you're Barbara Streisanding it. You're drawing attention to something that no one was looking at
right.
before.
You're absolutely right. And I think we should bring this up in our session next week.
Yeah. I'll ask our therapist, our couples therapist about it.
She's like,
why don't you introduce
have
this?
to record these guys. You don't have to record
No
these.
one has
Why'd you bring
to do
mics?
this.
We're just talking.
And I'm like, wait, therapist, don't say anything funny. We haven't started yet.
I haven't started the recording yet. It has to count down. That's also a joke to the specific software we use. No one's going to know that. Now who's self-sabotaging?
It's going great. Do you want to introduce this since you're...
Yes.
Yep.
A dear friend of mine requested this through our website, possibly months ago.
I definitely knew that we could get messages through our website. So if you want to contact us there, it's on our pod page. So go ahead. I will now be checking for that.
This comes from Dana. Thank you, Dana.
Thank you, Dana.
We are going to be doing The Outsiders. Directed by Martin Scorsese.
You're not far off.
Wait, is it someone big?
Oh, it's an
Robert Altman.
FFC, my friend.
Francis Scott
Francis.
Key. Oh, Francis Ford Coppola.
Scott Key Ford Coppola.
Ah, beautiful. Wow, what? What is this movie? I've never seen this movie. I do know that it has Brat Pack roots.
Yes.
It has Tim Cruise. It has
Cruise,
Matt
yep.
Dillon. Who's the guy who did blackface and we were all kind of cool with it for some reason? Soul Man? C. Thomas Howell?
Okay. I was like, Robert Downey Jr.? I don't
No,
think
that was a different era of blackface that we were also for some reason cool with.
It was self-aware.
It was a different time? Question mark. Who else is in this? This is a pretty, but Emilio Estevez is in it.
Rob Lowe.
Rob Lowe. Cat sound. Is Judd Nelson in this?
We've now reached the end of my knowledge of who's in this movie.
I can
so I'm
provide
not
no
sure.
new information at this point. They're not vampires. That's the Lost Boys,
that's
who
the
also
Lost
have an
Boys.
outsidery feel because they're vampires and they live under the docks at the fair.
Yeah.
But these boys, they're just outsiders. They have no magical abilities. Have you seen this movie?
I have not.
And it's obvious that I also have not seen this movie.
So to be fair to us, this movie came out in 1983.
Okay.
So we were one or less.
To be fair to Dana, however, Breakfast Club came out a year later, which we just reviewed for our 200th episode. But it had Ali Sheedy in it, so we were legally obligated.
And I do think that one, for my childhood, like had a more outsized impact. I had like vaguely heard of this, mostly because my wife is from Tulsa. And so she was telling me that it's based on a novel, which is about, there's not a lot that comes out of Tulsa, okay?
Hey, your wife, Taylor Hanson, should know better than that.
My wife, Garth Brooks, knows a lot about the area. So I think it's about the disaffected youth of Tulsa in the 60s.
Okay. Oh, it's a
Yeah.
60s film.
I think there's like a greaser vibe going on there.
But they don't dance in this one. There's no banana, none of that.
I confused this one. What's the like warriors come out to play?
That is called The Warriors.
And for some reason, that's what I think of when I think of this movie. I think it's just because I've not seen either.
I feel like I have less knowledge than I thought I did going in, because the fact that it takes place in the 60s or the 50s or whatever is blowing my mind.
I think it does. No, I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure.
Dana, I hope this introduction was worth it. Our clueless, like, flailing.
My one conversation I had with my wife about it and the 2 seconds of Googling that I did have really paid off, I think, because I've carried this intro. And I don't even know why you're here.
I also ask myself that all the time. Patrick Swayze's in it?
Swayze, I knew there was a big one I was forgetting.
And Matt Macchio is in it.
I, for a brief time, had a band called Swayze.
Wait, you had a band called what?
Simply Swayze. Here's the thing. It was not so much a band as a band concept. We were going to do 80s covers, not necessarily just from Patrick Swayze's one album, but I didn't follow through on it. But I think that's a pretty good name. And I think there's actually a band it's like a similar name around the same time, or like that actually followed through with that idea.
Leif Garrett is in it.
What isn't he in, though? Is he in movies? I thought he was...
Not in this plane of existence.
I thought he was like... I didn't know he was in things.
He plays Bob Sheldon.
Oh, he plays Bob Sheldon.
Okay. Wait, is he alive? He is alive. I thought he was dead.
Yeah.
Why did I think he was dead?
You're thinking of Leif Erikson.
You know what? It's the horns. They both were popular horn wearers, right?
Did you in school learn about Eric the Red and Leif Erikson around the same time? I did. And then every time I have to think about Socrates and Plato, which came first? And then I go, Eric's son. Okay, Eric the Red came.
Eric, yeah, because Leif Erikson, yeah.
It's in the name and I still have to think about it every time.
In your defense, it's not in Plato's name. Plato is not Socrates' son. It's not his last name.
Aristotle Platoson is the third in the succession.
How you keep track of it.
Yeah. All right. We're going to watch The Outsiders.
Wonderful. Tom Waits is in this?
Oh, yeah. Give me some Waits.
Got
the
business.
This is a lot of fun.
You know what I like almost as much as Tom Waits doing music is Tom Waits acting. I feel like
he is a charm bomb. Every time he's in something, even if it's garbage, you're like, look at that guy.
I love that guy.
He's having fun.
And
he's just having fun.
It seems like I haven't seen this, but it seems like every role that he's in, the director or casting director was like, I want Tom Waits for this. Mm-hmm. It was like made for him, and they were like, I don't even have lines for you, Tom. Just come and be fucking weird.
I'm also realizing that when I first saw Tom Waits act, it was in Bram Stoker's Dracula, directed by Francis Ford Coppola. FFC, the Fast and the Furious C, which is Fast and the Furious 100. When they get to the 100th one, it'll be FFC.
It's coming.
Can't wait.
Vin Diesel, the 8th, is in it. I don't know how numbers work. Okay, we're going to watch The Outsiders. Watch along with us. We'll be right back. It was like I just asked you if you could help me move. That was the face. All I asked was if you could tell the fine folks that are listening right now about patreon.com/you're-an-idiot. And you treated me like I'm a soch and you're a greaser. You know, like I did something to
Look, there's a lot of socioeconomic things going on here.
In this podcast.
And I can't just be asked to come up with, on the spot, an advertisement directing our listeners to patreon.com/you're-an-idiot, where they can join, donate, join tiers depending on, you know, how much they want to donate, get special little bits and pieces from us, early access to episodes.
How would you even know that you could do these things?
I mean, Jesus Christ, I'm like just trying to eke out a living here in Tulsa in 1965, and you're asking me to hop on your can and to record advertisements for you.
I'm sorry that I asked if you could tell the people about patreon.com/yourinchild'sanidiot where they can support the show. I'm sorry I even asked.
Okay, well, just turn the microphones on. I'll give it a go right now. And a 1, and a 2, and
Here we go. We are back. We watched The Outsiders. Is it Outsiders or The Outsiders? Now I'm confused.
It is The Outsiders.
The Outsiders.
Not A Outsiders, but The Outsiders.
Jason Bateman, Ben Mendelsohn.
Nope.
Nope.
No.
Oh, no? Okay.
No. That lady who kind of looks like Ann Archer but isn't. No, she's not in it either.
No, we watched Francis Ford Coppola's movie from 1982. Three. Filmed in 1982. That's where I get confused.
Yeah, you remember where you were during the filming of The Outsiders, which was a newborn baby, I'm assuming?
I was being swaddled. So, this movie chock-a-block with future famous actors and actress and one actress.
It almost feels like there was like some sort of witch in charge of casting, because it's rare to watch a movie where everyone who's in the main cast and even the tertiary cast are all names now.
What's weird is that it's
distracting.
It's distracting. And
I keep going, why isn't the camera on Tom Cruise more? Why isn't Tom Cruise just constantly talking?
Because he's
and
barely
the
a
movie's
character.
like, because he's not famous yet. Stop interrupting.
He hasn't even done Risky Business yet. Relax. And the most famous person cast in this movie was Leif Garrett. So
yeah, I saw that.
That's pretty crazy.
He was the biggest name, and he pulls a Janet Leigh and dies 10 minutes into the movie.
Yeah. Do you want to do a recap of this? This feels like it's got socioeconomic implications, which is your wheelhouse, baby.
Oh, yeah. I'm the expert witness on that. Okay. We're in Tulsa, Oklahoma, I believe mid-60s?
65, I believe. I don't think it ever says in the movie, but apparently it takes place in 1965.
The nation still reeling from the Kennedy assassination, getting concerned about things going on in Indochina.
Why did I laugh?
Jesus, what's wrong with you? Do you know more than you're letting on? And I like that there's just a guy who's in charge of the Kennedy assassination.
He's just waiting.
Constantly outside your field of vision, waiting for you to slip up for the past your entire life.
Since this movie was being filmed. Not even...
When you were famously being swaddled, they whispered in your ear the secrets of the Kennedy assassination and then just started pointing a gun at a baby, waiting for you to fuck up.
Sorry, please continue.
Thank you. You know I hate distractions.
I know you do. Famously.
Tulsa, Oklahoma, 65. We mostly follow a bunch of greasers, a gang of greasers, which are called just greasers is the name of the gang.
It's a murder
from
of
what
greasers.
I guess it's kind of a slur because there are times when people apologize for calling people greasers.
They have reclaimed the word. It's our word.
It's like the vagina monologues. It's really powerful when you think about it. And then there's also socias, which are, I guess, a little bit more upwardly mobile kids. Also in a gang, which seems just like, isn't that just popular kids?
Yeah.
Do they really need to come up with some sort of hierarchy there? But who am I to judge? And they hate each other, and they sort of rough each other up around town from time to time. We meet up with C. Thomas Howell, who plays Pony Boy, who is a kid who's being raised by his two older brothers because his parents were killed in a car wreck, a very dramatic car wreck. And he mostly pals around with Johnny, played by Ralph Karate Kid Macchio. And they sort of, I don't know if idolize is the right word, but they sort of pal around with Matt Dillon's character, Dally? Is that
Dallas.
his name?
Yeah, you can go by Dally.
Oh, okay. And he's kind of rough around the edges, kind of a bit of a jerk, kind of a hot idiot, I would say. And they eventually get into a fight with Leif Garrett's group. And Leif Garrett tries to drown C. Thomas Howell.
Yeah.
Ralph Macchio kills Leif Garrett. And they go on the run. They hop on a train and they're hanging out in a church for 5 days until it sort of dies down on Matt Dillon's advice. And eventually he comes, picks them up. And just they're about to leave that area, they see that the church is burning down. And there are a bunch of school kids in it, and they have to rescue those kids, and they sort of become heroes. Ralph Macchio decides to admit fault in the murder of Leif Garrett and admit to the manslaughter charges. But during that church fire, when they're rescuing those kids, part of the ceiling falls on Ralph Macchio, breaking his back. So he is probably paralyzed. Ever since they ran off, the gangs have been like getting even more violent with each other, and there's a rumble, registered trademark.
Scheduled rumble.
And don't go to the rumble, Tony. And also, you greasers. Maria is very involved in rumble culture. And the greasers win the rumble, but Johnny dies from his burns and from his injuries. And this sends Dally into sort of a tailspin because it makes him question the moral fabric of the universe. And what's the point of helping people if a church ceiling is going to fall on you and paralyze you and you'll die?
What's the point of helping people if you can't murder someone first, you know?
So he goes on sort of suicide by cop is sort of the plan. He takes an unloaded gun and just sort of robs a convenience store and then just starts aiming the gun at the police officers when they eventually surround them, and he gets shot.
Yeah.
And then
police officers famously not cool with that.
Famously, they love pointing their guns at each other, but they can't take the heat when someone else starts pointing a gun at them. You can't dish it, or you can't take it, but you sure can fucking dish it. And then C. Thomas Howell writes an essay about his friend, Ralph Macchio. Is that pretty good? Did I do pretty good? I've watched it 1.5 times, so I feel like I did pretty good.
You did really well. That's pretty much the whole story. And let me ask you.
Oh, and Diane Lane is there
Diane
too.
Lane, yeah, she plays Cherry. And we meet her at the very beginning. She's at the drive-in.
And she's boyfriends, or no, sorry.
She's boyfriends
I'm so
with.
embedded in queer culture that I can't even recognize a heterosexual relationship when I see it. She is Leif Garrett's girlfriend.
Yeah, their girlfriend,
but
boyfriend.
they have a very tumultuous, what'd you say?
Their girlfriend, boyfriend.
Okay. They're Facebook official, and they have sort of a tumultuous relationship. And even though Leif Garrett is killed by Ralph Macchio, she sort of plays spy with the greasers, sort of keeping them abreast of what's going on, and testifies that, yeah, my boyfriend and his friends were drunk and were looking to start trouble with the gang.
Yeah, she begins the movie like leaving the car because she's basically like, you're drunk, I can't be around you when you're like this. So we know that he's going to be belligerent and apparently he's violent and all this stuff. So I don't think she's like that bummed that he's dead. It seems like
she doesn't seem that put out. She's sort of like, I can't visit your friend in the hospital because, he killed my boyfriend. Yeah. But she doesn't seem that tore up that, she does have sort of a monologue where he's like, he had two sides to him and he was really nice sometimes.
Yeah.
But she still didn't seem that bothered that her boyfriend was murdered. Yeah. Let me get one thing out of the way. This is usually you're right. I apologize to the murderer community.
Strike that from the record. The guy from the Kennedy assassination plot is over here. The stenographer is over here. So
that's great. I'm glad she's there to capture everything he's saying. He's a terrible assassin.
Yeah. She cannot stenographer, she can't hear the guy with the gun pointed at me. So like when he was, anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, she's a stenographer with hearing loss. It just keeps getting better. The world building going on.
Please continue.
Let's get this out of the way, because this is usually your first question when we watch these type of movies. Yeah. It says something about a movie when Tom Cruise is the ugliest person in the movie. This movie is stacked with stone cold foxes.
Okay. Now,
across
calm down, because they're teenagers mostly.
Not Ralph Macchio. Oddly enough, not Ralph Macchio, who looks the most teenage of all of them. He's like smoking and drinking age at this point, but he still looks 14.
When Swayze's like 29 or something like that? Or
I think so, yeah.
Swayze's a full-grown man in this movie, and all evidence towards that. Yeah, we got Matt Dillon, who is apparently...
It sounds like it would be sexual, but I still don't know what... All evidence points that he's a full-grown man.
Let the record show. Again, Stephanie, thank you so much for being here. So
I've cut him in half, counted his rings. All evidence shows he's a full-grown man. He's been through at least 29 rainy seasons.
Matt Dillon, I think, is a weird-looking man. I don't want to shame, but this is... If there is a peak Matt Dillon, it's this movie. He's your favorite dumb hottie, just sort of like
Absolutely. Volatile.
Overflowing with unearned confidence.
Misogynist.
Just
violent, confident, dumb, dramatic, like when he turns away in his hospital bed and he turns back and goes, "We'll do it for Johnny. We'll do it for Johnny."
He's talkative. He's loquacious.
He does have a rare thing, which is a sexy unibrow. He is
Frida Kahlo.
He's got that dumb face.
Young Matt Dillon. That's it.
Frida
That's
Kahlo
the list.
and young Matt Dillon. That's the list. I think he is actually the sexiest of the whole group.
Okay.
He is gorgeous to me in this. Okay. He's so pale. I think the dumbness helps. There's something about those geometric, chunky eyebrows that look like a weed whacker went to him. Yeah. And also, like, he never misses an opportunity to take off his shirt. He's wearing, like, skin-tight jeans throughout the whole movie. Absolutely perfect. Never since Little Darlings has Matt Dillon been this hot.
Is that your rank?
And I think Little Darlings is problematic if I bring up that he's hot. He was a very handsome young man in Little Darlings.
I've never seen that movie, so I don't know. I don't get your reference. I was just going to swing by it, but now we're drawing attention to it. What is that?
I'm sorry. It's a movie about girls at summer camp, and they all sort of make a bet that they're going to lose their virginity, and Matt Dillon plays like the hottest camp counselor. It's like probably from the late 70s. He's got shaggy hair in it. Also doesn't miss an opportunity to take his shirt off in that movie either. Just as pale as he is here. He's great.
I had no idea Matt Dillon was so old. Like if I would have guessed that he was, because I've never seen this movie. I've never seen whatever the hell you're talking about. And I think the first time I ever saw him was probably like Something About Mary or something, like mid-90s.
I'm trying to think of what other Matt Dillon movies there are, because I also am, my brain immediately goes to There's Something About Mary. What about Wild Things?
Oh yeah, okay. That's probably the first thing I saw him, because that was before, right? It was like early 90s, so 93 or something?
Wild Things is 98.
Okay, completely incorrect. Sorry about that.
Completely wrong half of the cultural divide of the 90s. What's wrong with you?
I am really bad at dates.
That's what I've heard from the women. Don't.
Is that your ranking? We got Dillon at number 1.
Matt Dillon's at the top. Patrick Swayze right under him, if I could order things.
Nipping at his heels, if I could watch that happen. Okay, sorry.
I don't know why actually, now that I'm saying, Patrick.
Don't do that. Please stop. Please don't do that.
Stop it. It looks like you're half-hearted in it anyway.
You don't want to do it. I don't want to watch it. Let's stop. Let's stop the charade.
I'm sorry I said anything. Who else we got in this?
Emilio Estevez, Rob Lowe.
Oh my God.
Wayfish.
Rob Lowe.
Wayfish in this. He's very
wayfish, but he's got that perfect amount of rosacea, those baby blue eyes. Looks like he's created in a gay, wherever they made Troye Sivan, they started by making Rob Lowe.
Okay.
Absolutely perfect.
Ralph Macchio.
Yeah, I know he is of age, but he's too we talked about this during Karate Kid as well. He was a very, very late bloomer.
He looks very young, and his character is despite being the one who manslaughters, he's very like timid and like
kid slaughters, one would say.
He's very pulled into himself physically. He's very kind of like hunched over, and he was actually in a fight with that guy, so there's history there. He's like kind of got a scar on his cheek from it, and he's like kind of limping, and so he's like very, almost not quite like Igor, but he's got this like very hunched over, very timid sort of personality, which is it's not hot, Ralph. Okay.
You aren't bringing it, Johnny. Sorry. He's very shy and very, very timid. Yeah, I think that's a very good description.
Back to the important thing. Enough about the actors who play specific characters in this movie. Back to the hotness factor.
Back to who's the most symmetrical.
C. Thomas Soulman Howell.
Again, also in the same sort of camp as Ralph Macchio.
Yeah, too young.
He looks boyish.
Those are the two most age-appropriate looking gentlemen in this movie, as far as they look like the age that they are, I think.
While we're on the subject, after the church scene, C. Thomas Howell is hanging out with that guy from the Ernest movies, and he's covered in soot. All I could think of was Soul Man again. I was like, C. Thomas Howell can't fucking let it go. Can't miss a fucking opportunity, can you?
Are you talking about the dad from Gremlins?
No, that's not Hoyt Axton.
Not?
That is, I wrote it down. Gaylord Sartain.
Oh, really?
Do you remember in the Ernest movies, Ernest would always go, there would be these two guys, and there was like a big guy, and then a really scrawny guy who never said anything. That's the guy. And I was so distracted. I was like, why is this manic guy in this scene as just like a calm, cool, collected like church leader?
Totally just switched people in my head. I was like, that is Dad from Gremlins. That's Hoyt Axton. And I just didn't even.
No, he has.
I didn't even
I
fact check
think there's
myself.
a similar vibe there,
Yeah.
but no.
Ranking Tom Cruise. Is he in there?
Well, he's got his original teeth here, so something that was distracting me the whole time.
Yeah.
I couldn't get into the.
He's
Tom
a lot
Cruise
more.
thing.
He looks a lot more like a normal person in this, and not the sort of like.
Yeah, he's got his snaggletooth still. His eyebrows, he looks like he's going to whoever Matt Dillon is going to for the eyebrows, but it just doesn't work the same on Tom Cruise. He also has such very little screen time really in this. I don't think Tom Cruise has been as low on a call list as he has been since The Outsiders.
Yeah.
Like this was really right before he blew up.
He does do his own stunt on the one flip he does.
That's true. And he got like nervous about it. And Patrick Swayze had to like coach him through it. And it was very stupid.
Swayze's
Sounds
move. So
very
they're headed to the Rumble and they're kind of hyping themselves up. And then Swayze
Mhm.
does this very impressive vault over the fence where he goes like totally upside down vertical and then flips over. And then
he lifts himself on the fence and holds it there for a while because he's very taut and veiny. And then he flips back down.
and then Tom Cruise does
over
like
the
a
fence.
backflip off of the truck.
Yeah.
It's stupid, but that is what I remember most about this movie, and it's my Sally Field Award nominee. So, okay.
Hot guys. I just want to check the
Tom
list.
Waits
I don't want
makes
to
a quick
miss
appearance.
any hot guy. Tom Waits always can get it. Yeah, that was also distracting. I'm like, what are you doing? Tom Waits, what in the world are you doing here? It was so distracting.
Lauren said, Tom Waits, professional weird dude, which is fair.
Yeah.
I love Tom Waits.
He'd accept that. He'd have cards printed with that on there.
What do you think about the opening song by Stevie Wonder?
By Stevie Wonder. I was very distracted because I didn't recognize that it was Stevie Wonder, but I was like, this voice sounds familiar. Who is this?
He's not leaning into the Steviness of it in this song.
Right. Felt like a song that was written for the soundtrack of this movie, The Outsiders.
Let me tell you something. This is a hot take of Stevie Wonder. Stevie Wonder is one of my favorite artists of all time. I think he's incredible.
Okay.
He is either playing one of the best songs you've ever heard, or it's cheesy as fuck. Those are the two gears that he has. And
he has two settings.
And this leans into the latter. That is my opinion. Obviously, many people like some of the cheesy stuff there, but it's kind of distracting.
So it's no sign seal delivered is what you're saying.
Right. Yeah.
This isn't on that par. I do want to talk about, since you brought it up, I want to talk about the credits. Did you get seasick during the credits a little bit?
Seasick? No, why?
Because it would do this thing where it sort of does the playbill style credits where you have everyone. This is a very retro movie, and I think that'll be a point that we keep touching. Not retro because it's the 80s, retro because it's referencing
60s,
like
yeah.
50s and 60s like gang movies. In it has playbill style credits where it lists almost the entire cast up front with the here's the character's name ... Diane Lane. And
then it zooms in.
it would do this thing where it would put everything on the left-hand side or the right-hand side of the screen, and then the credits would sort of jump towards the camera and then scroll up. It was really...
That was very weird.
I was like, did you just get a new computer program to do this? Why are you doing this? It feels very distracting. And each time it happened, me and Tyler sort of jumped back from the screen like, whoa, careful. These credits are just coming right at you.
How do you feel about the opening credits that kind of tell the whole story? In general, I'm like, when are we going to get to the fireworks factory? But there is part of me that kind of likes it because I want to leave when the movie's over. And I do like seeing before the movie, I'm more inclined.
Wait,
to be
hold on,
picked.
honey. I wanted to see that guy who worked in the gas station.
Yeah.
Because I think he was a guy who was in another movie I liked when I was a kid.
Pretty sure that was the guy from the Ernest movies, but I won't know until 1 hour and 1/2 of 1 hour from now.
I won't know until later, and even then, I probably won't recognize his name.
Yeah.
So, in a similar vein, I had a realization today, or this week. I had a YouTube running, and YouTube was like, you know what you probably want to watch? 4 straight guys watching Kill Bill, Part 1.
Okay.
And it just started, and they made a comment that I didn't even think of. These were probably all Gen Z kids, and they were like, wow, there's credits at the beginning of this film. You ever seen that before?
Wow.
And I immediately turned into a Nazi at the end of a Indiana Jones movie and just started melting away because I realized, oh yeah, credits at the beginning of the movie are not as common as they used to be when we were growing up.
Yeah.
I think like Marvel has almost killed the opening credits. Like, especially big epic movies that you see in the theater nowadays typically don't have credits.
You just got a title
beginning.
card, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah. Just so you remember, we're in the right theater, Greg. This is where we're supposed to be.
It is Avengers 12. This is where we're meant to be.
Avengers 12. This time, we're going to get them. Okay, so we've made it to the opening credits.
Good job. Well, here's a question. And this is jumping ahead to themes.
Please,
like,
let's get out of the opening credits. I just noticed I had another note about the opening credits, so let's just get away from them.
This is based on a novel by S.E. Hinton that she wrote when she was a teenager. S.E. Hinton makes a cameo as the nurse, which I learned, which is...
Matt Dillon tells her that he makes her sick and shoos her away.
Apparently she was very involved on set with this, just making sure things like matched or whatever. I wouldn't have said it this way, but learning that this was written by a teenager feels right. It's like, what is this about exactly? I understand that it's the story of these sort of disparate groups and but we definitely feel like we're on the side of the greasers here, and everyone involved are dicks, pretty much, except for our main character. He's a good guy. Ponyboy's he's a good guy. Johnny seems like he's trying to do his best, and he only stabbed the Leif Garrett character because he was drowning his friend. So
he was trying to kill his friend.
So it was self-defense, but I don't know I'm having trouble finding the more thematic elements of this and reconciling them with the movie. It just feels like a story, which is okay, but it does feel like it's trying to say something bigger, and I don't get it. If it's just like that the world is unfair and that there's always going to be haves and have-nots and there's always going to be this thing, then I'm like, okay, maybe I do get it. But it just feels like it wants to be weightier than it is. It's got like a high school play energy. Like, that's what I would have said. And then learning that she was a teenager when she wrote it, I was like, oh, well, that checks out.
Yeah, it does feel very melodramatic.
Yes.
There is a little bit of a melodrama element to it. I think that is purposeful. And I think Francis Ford Coppola also leans into that in the fact that I think he films it almost like probably the movies he saw in his youth of the 50s and 60s, where, I mean, the score is out of control in this movie, very swelling.
Yes.
If it's probably the best adjective to use for it. It's constantly swelling with a lot of strings. Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's very reminiscent of things like Rebel Without a Cause and things in that genre of getting involved in gangs to sort of make yourself feel like you're connected to a group. And then in this case, I feel like all of a sudden what was just sort of like camaraderie becomes, oh, well, we just killed a guy and now we have to run and almost like sort of live out, become adults like instantaneously. We have to, find a new place to live and shop for ourselves. And there's even a shot, like a montage of them like trying to hunt for the rabbits that live on the grounds of the church they're hanging out in.
Like lost innocence and that kind of thing.
Yeah, and their kidhood keeps creeping in. Like there's a moment where there's a raccoon scratching on the outside of the church and Ponyboy is like, there's a monster outside, is his immediate assumption. Yeah, I mean, the reason I watched this movie or tried to watch the movie a second time is that I was having trouble like piecing together the thematic elements of it. It's a really well shot movie. And I mean, the retroness of it, once I sort of picked up, I think, what he was doing, I was like, okay, I get it. Okay.
Yeah.
I won't be bothered by the strings anymore. Thank you, Frankie Ford.
Music by Carmine Coppola, Francis Ford Coppola's father.
As usual, it is a family affair here in the Coppola household. Sofia Coppola is the girl trying to borrow 15 cents at the Dairy Queen later on. And there's even another Coppola I wrote G.E. Coppola is another Coppola that was listed in the credits. Yeah. So, I mean, we're just one Nicolas Cage short of a Coppola family reunion to be all set.
Didn't quite make the cut in this one, Nikki.
Sorry, Nick. You'll have to go do Valley Girl or whatever that movie. What's that one with Kathleen Turner where she goes back in time? Betty Sue got married?
Ghost Rider.
That's right. Ghost Rider.
I guess all that. I'll give you all that. The most compelling thing to me that was kind of interesting one of the things was the relationship the Ponyboy has with his brothers. So his brothers are Soda Pop, Rob Lowe, and
Soda Popinski, yeah.
Soda Popinski. And
before his boxing career took
older
off.
brother is Patrick Swayze. What is his character's name? I don't remember.
He has another name. It's another D name.
Dally? Is he Dally and Derry?
No, that can't be. There's Daryl and Dally.
Yeah, so
That's it. Daryl is his eldest brother,
yeah,
Patrick Swayze.
yeah. So it's complicated. Their parents have died, and he's basically at any point if they call social services, they're going to have to go to some boys' home because he really shouldn't be taking care of him. He's only a few years older than him, and then
I'm curious how that slipped through the cracks. I mean, the parents both instantaneously died.
Yeah,
and I imagine there would be documentation that they have 3 sons.
Yeah.
So how did the government?
Well, it doesn't seem like they're sort of top of the list of priorities. These children.
That might be fair. I like that element, and I thought it brought this very interesting wrinkle to everything, which is like you can't get in trouble. I can't call the cops if you go missing. We can't rely on any sort of services because we're sort of living under the radar right now. And I don't know how old Patrick Swayze's character is supposed to be. Is he supposed to be a teenager as well?
I think he's supposed to be mid-20s or early 20s or something like that.
Oh, then what's the problem?
Or maybe he's not. Maybe he's only, maybe you're right about that. I thought he was supposed to be like adult.
Because when they were at the drive-in, doesn't someone ask, where's your oldest brother? And C. Thomas Howell says he dropped out.
Okay. You might be right about that.
I assume to work so he could make money for the brothers. I would have liked to see a little bit more of the brothers because that does seem like a core relationship that keeps getting alluded to.
Yeah.
And we actually don't see them together all that much. It's obvious that C. Thomas Howell keeps referring to Ponyboy. Sorry. Ponyboy keeps referring to his relationship with Soda Pop, his beautiful twink middle brother.
Uh-huh.
And he talks about how much, they used to get along when their parents were still alive and we even see like when there's a brief argument at the beginning of the movie that Soda Pop sort of defends Ponyboy from Daryl's yellings, but we don't actually get much screen time with them in a group. And I wonder, because I know there's an extended edition of this that came out maybe
that could be
20 years after the fact that might flesh that out a little bit better.
That might be true, that there's more in there. But I had a note about that because Ponyboy comes home late because he's fallen asleep when he was hanging out with Johnny, and then Derry gets mad and hits him or pushes him, and then he just leaves and runs away. And then there's this reunion later,
which sort of causes the event where they're hanging out in the playground when the Socias come. I can't get over that. The Socias as a gang name.
I don't think
go back to the drawing board, kids.
I mean, I don't think they're a gang in the same way that the Greasers are. They're just preppies.
It reminded me of, this is probably referencing The Outsiders more than the other way around, but John Waters' Crybaby. Have you ever seen that?
I haven't seen
that. And there are the Squares, which are the preppy kids, and there's the Drakes, which are the sort of greaser kids in that movie. I remember asking my mom, is this what the 50s were like? She was like, yeah, we had Squares. I don't remember anyone being referred to as a Drake before. Maybe that was a Baltimore thing for John Waters, but it seemed like a weird name for a group of kids. But yeah, I think you are right. I think it's not really, it's more of a socioeconomic thing than anything else.
But they have this big reunion, and the music is telling me it's very emotional when
in the hospital
when he comes back home and reunites with Derry and Soda Pop, and it's like swelling music, and to me it feels very unearned. I'm like, I saw them together twice if you count 1 second at the gas station when he saw Soda Pop, and it wasn't even clear that was his brother at that moment.
This is after the church fire, right?
I think so.
Yeah. That one worked a little bit for me. I do see what you mean, and I think it's a fair criticism. I thought that, though, Patrick Swayze, seeing him grabbing him as tightly as possible and crying, because Patrick Swayze is a pretty good actor. I thought that worked. That did patch over some of the lack of connective tissue that could have been there. I thought the acting sort of got me to the point that the movie wanted me to. It worked.
When I think maybe for me it was the way the scenes were constructed, which could be an edit thing, but I feel like I cared more about their relationship after that. It was more established after, where it was we got some scenes with them together. They're all in the getting ready for the Rumble. They're all there together. He's worried about Ponyboy because he's still recovering, and he doesn't want him to get hurt and all this stuff because he's his little brother. That all checks out, but we didn't have any of that sort of care before. So I don't know.
Even just one more scene at the beginning, seeing them a day in the life of just knowing how it works. And we get that sort of in a montage at the beginning of the movie. You referenced seeing Soda Pop at the gas station. And a little bit of that, but I think an actual like scripted scene would have done a lot of that.
How do you feel about the relationship between Johnny and Ponyboy? This is Ralph Macchio, and then
I mean, there's a little not eroticism, but homo-romanticism to them.
It does feel romantic, like they're reading poetry
they sort of
to
lay
each other.
on each other. Yeah. And then they like they're on the run and they're sort of like building a home together briefly. And it's kind of cute in a way. And they have to teach each other these things. I can also see it like from another direction of their, again, sort of that instant adulthood, that lost innocence moment where, oh God, Joe Biden at the debate. What was I thinking?
This podcast is fucked.
They're either going to elect you or me, and you have said you wanted to be a dictator for a day.
Just one. Give me one.
You know how dictators famously give up power? I think, and then they're sort of reading to each other. I think there is this idea that they're just sort of fumbling into adulthood and that awkward period between being a kid and then, you know, your hormones sort of take over as a teenager, and maybe they're not bothered by sort of leaning on each other and resting on each other. And they have a lot of sweet moments early on.
Yeah.
That could just be like kids hanging out. I think also, I mean, we see a brief vision of Ralph Macchio's house early on before they run away, which absolutely looks like fucking hell on earth. We just see his parents' silhouettes like physically fighting each other in the windows of his house. And he obviously is like completely triggered and traumatized by this. And he's just like, I want to kill myself. I cannot be here much longer. Ralph Macchio is great in this movie.
Yeah.
I think it helps that he is a 14-year-old looking 21-year-old. So he really does bring a lot of pathos and he nails Johnny's character really well.
Yeah, I think Johnny's sort of like the beating heart of this film too. Like he's the one who's stays.
Not
and
for
like,
the entire film, unfortunately.
True. He
Beating
does
heart,
die.
because he dies.
But you know what I mean? Like he has like sort of, even though he's the one, he defends Ponyboy with the knife, which ends up with Leif Garrett's character dead. What is Leif Garrett's character?
Bob? It's something normal. He's
Bob.
not named
It is
after Soda
Bob
Pop.
Sheldon.
Is it Bob? Bob.
Kills Bob, but he's the one he's kind of, what does he say that is sort of the theme? Stay golden or something like that. That's
Stay golden, yeah.
yeah.
Nothing gold ever lasts is like a line from a Robert Frost
Yes.
poem. And then Johnny Macchio is like, hey,
Stay golden, baby.
Defy the fact that you can't. That also plays into the idea of like, don't be eager to be an adult right now.
Right.
Feel free to be a kid. As long as you
like
can.
we talk about this and we're analyzing it, and it works so much better than actually watching the film. Where I'm like, I actually watch it and it's so, like you said, melodramatic, and it's just, it sort of takes me out of it a little bit, and then you realize what they're talking about, or you think about it a little bit more, and you're like, oh yeah, that's okay, I'm in with that, that's interesting. And then I think back to the film again, or you quote it and I'm like, no, this is stupid. And also later, so
you just want me, much like Ponyboy and Johnny, you want me to read The Outsiders
I want you to read it to me,
so that you can understand it better.
When Dally is, finds out, or they're there when Johnny dies, and so this is Matt Dillon's character. Dallas goes off the rails, and they're like, "Oh, I know he's going to do something crazy," and but he seems to blame the Socias, which I think is obviously in retrospect misdirected, but it's also like he's in the hospital. This is unrelated.
This was because of a field trip to an abandoned church
that caught fire.
Awry?
That whole scene was super random. I know the character point of like showing them that they're actually good people that would try to do these good things, but it's like, where do these kids come from? Why are they at this church? Is this the same church?
Why are they at this abandoned
Why
church?
did they catch fire? What is happening?
Yeah, it felt very... I thought I had missed something in my initial watch. I'm like, oh, did they like throw a cigarette somewhere?
You're right.
I didn't, and I missed it. No. And I was also confused. What children are these? Yeah. Why are they here? Suddenly, they've been here for a week. I mean, Ponyboy and Johnny have been here for a week. And then randomly, the minute they go to Burger King for 30 minutes, there's a bunch of kids suddenly just have spawned from the ground and are having a field trip at a collapsing church. Why? Why are you game?
Dr. Wankman, why are you game? Just a quick behind the scenes, apparently, story. There was a story that Francis Ford Coppola wanted Matt Dillon to stay in jail overnight to sort of get the feel of what like being like that was. And then apparently the reported response from Matt Dillon was, "No way, Francis. How about you spend a night in jail?" Which I just like.
I love it when people think method acting is stupid.
I also just like the idea of calling Francis Ford Coppola Francis. I don't know why. Just because, of course, you would.
It
like,
does
if you actually
feel like
knew him.
we should be calling him at least Francis Ford.
Yeah, FFC if you're nasty.
Sounds like a wrestling league.
Do you have a Catherine O'Hara Memorial MVP award for this?
I mean, I might give it to Ralph Macchio.
I was thinking that too.
Matt Dillon's character is deranged.
I can't give it to Matt Dillon. I can't. He bothers me too much.
Okay,
and
that's fine. Then let's go back to Macchio. Because he's a creep? Is it also because he's a fucking creep?
Yes. Yeah. And that might, that's not really an acting problem, but I just can't do it.
Okay. We'll give it to Mach.
Okay.
Hold on. Let me write these down since I've been not doing
I feel like you always do write them down, but then you ask me later and I'm like, what were you writing down? Is this a Dennis Miller at the end of Weekend Update thing? Or what's happening here?
You said Sally Field. You wanted the flip over the fence to be the Sally Field?
That's my best nominee. Who you got? This is our Sally Field Memorial Single Scene Award.
Can we give it to the Rumble?
That's so stupid. A lot of punching, though. How do you feel about the punching? Let's talk about the Rumble. So I
liked the Rumble. Yeah. Having seen at least 2 Rumbles in my cinematic viewing experience.
Oh, I thought you were going to say in your life.
I like this Rumble.
I was going to, wow, what?
Huh?
I thought you were saying you've seen a Rumble in your life.
In my life, no. I have only been in one physical fight in my life, fighting what I imagine was a proto-lesbian, and then I was saved by another proto-lesbian who stopped the fight. Nancy, I love that her name was Nancy. Thank you. I would have lost that fight to Amy. Anyway, another vision into my life.
Those 2 women grow up to be the Indigo Girls. So, what?
They were like, let's not fight. Let's jam.
Well, get out the map.
It's funny because the fight happened in the 90s, so that would mean that the Indigo Girls had already started their career, but then suddenly I was fighting one and the other had to step in to stop it.
You're fighting. You were talking about Rumbles that you've seen, please.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I mean, West Side Story is a very, arch Rumble. Yes. It's a very, Dancing. Supposed to be surreal or above. Mm-hmm. It's supposed to be unrealistic. And this, I felt like it was very chaotic. And there's even a moment where Matt Dillon has come from the hospital and he's like, don't start without me. And he just starts, punching people. And it almost feels like, Gandalf the White arriving at Helm's Deep. It's deranged.
Very similar.
Just suddenly is there. I like it when it's chaotic because
the Lord of the Rings reference in.
Matt Dillon famously, one of the lines that is in the extended edition, but not in this version, is that he says, on the 5th day, look to the east. At first light, I will be there. And then he arrives at the Rumble.
You shall not
But
pass.
I like it being chaotic. It's very chaotic and weird. And I like that because every time I've witnessed a fight in actual life, it is always just like, whoa, what the fuck is happening? All of it. And no one is actually swinging punches. There's just a lot of shoving and moving and just running into things. I appreciate when fights in movies are as chaotic or closer to chaos than in real life, than in usual movies.
Lauren asked, she's like, how do you know if you won? And then all the socials leave. And she's like, I guess that's how, but also they would have had to go home at some point. Because we don't live here.
I mean, the trick is to, first off, color coordinate.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, you don't know who you're punching.
That's true.
You're not going to be able to pick out everyone's socioeconomic level just on sight, especially once you're all covered in mud
you make
from the rain. What do your family do for a living? Yeah, I don't know. I also was distracted. The guy who, keep wanting to call him Derry. Patrick Swayze's character. Mm-hmm. He meets his equivalent, his social equivalent. Right. Is that the coach from The Karate Kid?
No, I think it just looks like him, but I could be wrong about that.
I tried to look it up and I couldn't. There was no listing for that gentleman in the credits, so I could not find him. He's either the coach. No, Joe Piscopo is the coach in The Sidekick or Sidekicks with Jonathan Brandis and Chuck Norris. He was a ripoff of the Karate Kid coach in that. And in this one, in Karate Kid, I feel like it was the other guy who was wearing the letter jacket, who looked 40. Like, it was out of control. I'm like, this man is not in high school. If you're trying to trick me into thinking he's in high school or just at high school, bullshit.
He was, it was the 80s portraying the 60s. There was a whole different scale then.
True. Who knew what age anyone was? I just wish that movies knew I have seen a teenager before.
Okay.
And they don't look like Archie from Riverdale. I can tell you that.
He also, the weird thing was that guy who looked like the coach said, "Sweep the leg, Johnny," but he was talking to Ralph Macchio's character. Which also didn't make sense because he was already dead at this point.
He's in the hospital. He's dead. What the fuck's wrong with you?
Oh, I do want to just... Did you notice like the whole like first 15 minutes were singing Gloria? Van Morrison and the band, them Gloria. It keeps like reprising. It was a good fit at first, and then I was like, okay, well, you could have done another cue.
Yeah, rewatching it, I was like, oh yeah, I like this song, and then I thought it had faded out.
It did, and it came back.
Then it faded back in. I was like, okay, there's not even a character named Gloria in the movie. Yeah. Move on, movie.
I thought for a second, I was like, oh, is this going to be their greaser theme or something? But no, that was it. It was just that. Those weird. No. It was a weird choice. I don't think it's important, but it was weird.
I have some wayward thoughts. One, I appreciated, since Gone with the Wind sort of plays this role where Ralph Macchio brings a copy of the book for them to sort of pass the time in the church. I appreciated there was a lot of visual references to the actual movie Gone with the Wind, where they're looking out of the sunset in silhouette, which is very much like another recurring theme from the movie is I think at least 3 or 4 times someone is in silhouette looking at the plantation over a sunset. So that felt very on point. It also felt like the most play-like moment because I feel like Ralph Macchio and C. Thomas Howell were on a set at that moment because it felt very... a little too perfectly lit for it to be outside. We have 38 seconds to get this shot until the sun goes down. Go, go, go!
Stay golden hour, pony boy. Let's do this.
And I also appreciated just in general that it had sort of a gritty version of this of the 50s and 60s.
Sure.
Usually we get a very like cleaned up
the Soch version
of that. Yeah. Like when you're at the movie theater and it just looks sort of grimy and gross. It was kind of nice that's a nice counterbalance to what we typically see of what the 50s and 60s were like. Oh, I do want to say one thing. It just won a Tony. There's a musical version of The Outsiders that just won a Tony at the Tony Awards this year.
Yeah, my friend Tara was saying that she was like, there's a very successful musical. I was like, really? I did not know that. We'll watch the musical and we'll get back to you. We'll fly.
We're going to go to New York.
Fly to New York. Actually,
and go
that would be great. If you get all your friends to become patrons, we will be able to afford a road trip to do that. And I would
a one-way ticket.
I would love
to New York
to do that.
And then we have to find our way back somehow.
Get on the bus. No problem. Verdict?
Take me south, I say to them.
Let's go to the verdict. Damon. Or your greaser nickname is Glasses Man. Four eyes. Wait, I also
there
have
you go.
glasses.
I mean, that's the easiest one. Calculator. They probably call me Calculator because I have glasses, even though I'm not good at math. Yeah, I think your inner child was not an idiot. I think this is a pretty good film. I'm sure if I was a teenager and saw this, I would be over the moon, as we have talked about the general symmetry of the cast's face. But I thought it was pretty good. I think it would really resonate with a teenage audience more than an adult audience, where I'm just like, guys, fucking stop fighting. No one cares. I can see like if when you're feeling like a teenager and you feel like you don't really have control over your life, and feels like circumstances are happening to you rather than you doing them, especially in a situation like Ponyboy's where he's sort of living on the outskirts of society. His family is sort of under the radar and just sort of trying to piece together a living, and they can't even rely on the services you'd expect that they could rely on. I thought it was very effective. I thought Ralph Macchio does a great job. I do think he is like the soul of this movie, and that was a good choice in casting. Yeah, I think this is a pretty good movie. I think acting is great. I think the shots are really good. The soundtrack, I'm sure if I had lived through the 50s and 60s, I would appreciate it more. It just felt very over the top in this, but I think it is referencing like a lot of these sort of melodramas from that time period. And I think it works overall.
Yeah, I think...
Deej, what do you think?
Sometimes I'm watching a movie and I feel like this comes with, I know people, this has like accolades and comes with history from, but I also watch a movie and the movie presents itself as important. You know what I mean? It has that sort of thing. And I think, it's, Francis Ford Coppola is a skilled director, so it could just be the way things are put together. But, and sometimes I'm into it and sometimes I like it. And sometimes I'm like, I don't feel that way about this. This feels like an after school special more than like a tremendously great movie. It's not without redeeming qualities. There are characters that are interesting. I think the story is kind of interesting. I do think that if I had brought any history with me, I might have a different feeling about it. Like, I know this is like a special movie for people and Lawrence from Tulsa, so there's like history just with the movie itself. But like, this is, you're an idiot. This movie doesn't do anything for me. I don't get it. I know. I feel like I'm going to be lambasted for that, and I feel like in general that's fine. I'm okay not getting it
in general.
But I have zero desire to watch this again. I would watch the musical. I would be interested to see if they can add anything that maybe shinier things and more dancing would make it work for me. Maybe I just don't have the patience because I'm dumb. I'm fair.
Maybe a drink before Act 1 begins might help. A $12 fucking drink in the lobby.
When you and I will have just gotten some food from halal guys on the street and then gone to the theater. This sounds
cramming a hot dog down our throats.
Great.
It's gonna be great. When you think of Francis Ford Coppola's oeuvre now that you've seen this, you're more on the Jack end of things. You prefer his work with Jack. Robin Williams as the ever young.
Did he do other movies besides this and Jack?
I think it's just those two. He's a famous recluse who loves making wine and pops up every 20 years, starting in 1983, to make movies. The Outsider, his first movie. The Outsider is his first movie, and Jack, his second film.
I know, like, you are more this way than I am, just personality-wise. Like, I don't generally have that rejection of, oh, this is great, you should watch it. I don't immediately go like, screw you, I'm going to hate it because I'm so smart and different, which I know.
Because I'm annoying to be around, yeah.
I don't have that always, like, but sometimes I'm just like, I feel like I'm making a mistake, like I watched it wrong. Because I'm like, what? It's not that bad.
You put the Pink Floyd album on with
that's
this, right?
You know, in our controversial Magnolia episode, I feel that that's one where I'm like, this is bad, and I don't understand. The Outsiders is not that. Like, I just think it's a little too melodramatic for me, a little too like on the nose, and it's like good for a bunch of teenagers or young adults acting, but it doesn't really do anything for me.
I think there's also a little bit of what me and my brother call book dialogue in here. Well, actually, usually we call it play dialogue, but this also this has book dialogue where it's like, hey, what did you just said something right then. It's like, yeah, it's a Robert Frost poem. Allow me to recite it from memory real quick. And it's like, wow, that really plays into the themes that we're experiencing now. But I have a counterpoint to that. It's like, okay, I got it.
It feels like we're losing our innocence.
Wow, look at all these bunnies around the church. It's almost like they are symbols of our innocence. I kept focusing on the bunnies, and at one point I was like, I'm a metaphor. I kept getting distracted. I'm like, I see them. Thank you.
Got it. Thank you. Okay. What do you think, everybody? Your inner child is an idiot at gmail.com. You can text us or leave us a voicemail, 615-576-0525.
First off, we want to thank our listener, Dana, who requested The Outsiders. Thank you, Dana Duddle.
Thank you for bringing that up. We also want to thank our patrons, including, we're going to give them all greaser nicknames.
No. Oh, my God. We'll never be able to do it.
Little Miss Six.
What about the people who already have? What am I supposed to say? Tommy Boy's my favorite movie. The Knife. Like what?
Little Miss Six-Piece Chicken Nugget.
Sense.
Thank you.
No, I can't do it.
Just cause. Lindsay Halik.
Bill Haynes.
Beth Surmont.
Jonathan Day.
The supreme ruler of this podcast.
Jackson has an unhealthy obsession with me.
Caroline Amberson.
Heather Tuggle.
Shit on the Cartouche.
The Zesty.
Particle Man.
Jeremy Powlen.
Lindsay Nell.
Oh no, Damon's Australian accent. I like that I go from a semi-realistic accent and then I have to veer into my ludicrous accent.
The idea
Doing great.
that you have a semi-passable Australian accent. Dramatically placed hot dog.
Hizoner the mayor.
David Mort.
Karen Curd.
Captain Jean-Luc Picard.
Zachary Hartley.
Josh Switchblade Frigo.
Dr. Malcolm's Heaving Bosom. Heaving Bosom. The nickname is Heaving Bosom, but also his last name is Heaving Bosom.
The Hands of Fate.
Travis Vance.
Larissa Maestro.
The Elusive fan Gromkin.
Tommy Boy is Damon's favorite movie.
And T. Smith.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you, everyone.
If you want to support like them, patreon.com/your inner child's an idiot. Just real quick, do you have anything super apropos, maybe a poem that you could recite that kind of recaps this episode and the themes? And I'll play some really maudlin string music.
I've got a poem. This poem is about probably a metaphor that's been recurring in this podcast, which is the imagery of pelicans. So this is a poem by, of course, William Butler Yeats. What a wonderful bird is the pelican. His beak can hold more than his belly can. He can store in his beak what he eats for a week. And I don't know how in the hell he can. Thank you, everybody.